Invasive plant species, like this English ivy here, are absolutely everywhere. From forests, to parks, to patches of dirt in your own backyard. But why are they such a problem? A plant's a plant, right? Well, to answer this question, we caught up with Hunter Jarrett, but you might know him better as Invasive Species Guy on TikTok. He's made it his mission to inform audiences about the impact that these invaders are having on our environment, and what can be done to stop them.
My name is Hunter Jarrett. I am a fourth year student in the Bachelor of Natural Resource Protection program at VIU. You may also know me as the Invasive Species Guy, and I am currently an ecological restoration assistant with VIU Restoration, working on campus. So that's me. To the untrained eye, a plant is a plant, and that's a blue plant and that's a green plant, right? But once you start to look a little bit deeper and unveil it, there's a lot more going on there. And so we have native species, and then we have non-native or exotic species. And so those are species that have evolved in other areas of the world, but now they're here. And for a variety of reasons, maybe it's something that's brought in through the horticultural trade, maybe it's spread here from, I don't know, maybe maybe shipping trucks, who knows? There are so many different pathways and vectors that non-native species can arrive to an area by. Trees grow literally in the bark, and so whoever pulled this before me, as you can see, like a lot of the bark is coming with it, which obviously makes the tree more vulnerable to pests and diseases and this kind of thing. But what separates a non-native or exotic species compared to an invasive species, what separates those is the impacts. Impacts like maybe they hinder reforestation efforts, maybe they are an impact on agricultural activities, maybe they typically the plants they grow really quickly, they reproduce really quickly, they spread rapidly, maybe they facilitate disease transmission. There's an endless amount of impact. And so when we're talking about biodiversity and what we can do to protect biodiversity, it's really managing these species that haven't evolved here, that don't have predators, for example, keeping them in check. They don't have diseases keeping them in check, other insects keeping them in check. And so it's really in our benefit to manage them. Right. You probably recognize this one, but this is Scotch broom. It's a big problem on the island and on the mainland as well. Produces thousands of seeds per plant that can remain viable in the ground. I've heard all over the place, but a very long time, like potentially like 100 years, if not more. It will hinder reforestation efforts, and so often when there's a cut block, you see Scotch broom. Yeah. Which can obviously be a really big problem if they're monitoring that and the trees can at least get high enough where they can then overshadow broom. Yeah. Eventually in the long run, like broom won't be there because it needs open sunny areas like we're in right now. But when you have ecosystems like Garry Oak ecosystems that are supposed to be open, that is the problem.
As Hunter and I walked around the small patch of forest at the top of VIU, we did not have to look very hard to find invasives. We quickly found a huge swath of Daphne in the understory that was choking out almost all other plant life. We also found big patches of Scotch broom, tangles of Himalayan blackberry, and huge clumps of English ivy and holly that were suffocating native trees. As you realize the scope of the issue, the fight against invasive species can begin to seem somewhat impossible. But thankfully there are a lot of people working to make things better, and so I asked Hunter what people can do to aid this fight.
Become familiarized with invasive species. The more people that are aware of them, the more knowledge that is being spread, the more people are empowered to take action. So whether that's on your hike and you see one that okay, you can pull that and that will, get rid of it there, and you don't have to dispose of it necessarily, that's really great. Other ones, maybe that's not an effective way to get rid of it. Maybe it's one that you need herbicide. Maybe that's just something you don't touch and you report instead. And so we have an app that is literally a provincial app just for reporting invasive species. And so the ones that are recognized at the provincial level, you go, oh, boom, take a picture of it, there it is, a little description, how big of an infestation it is, and you send that information away and it gets sent right to professionals so that management plans and work plans can be made around that, And so it's really empowering, and it doesn't have to be that app. You don't have to be just in BC to report an invasive species. You can do it with apps like iNaturalist or Seek, for example. That data is really valuable, not just for, we know that invasive species grow in there, okay, we're going to do something about that, but it tells us just like how far these species are spreading and where we are potentially seeing these impacts as well. If you really care about an area and you're involved with maybe a volunteer group, or maybe it's just even your yard, you know, and you've developed that relationship with the land as well, then you really realize that we can have a really great impact here, right? A positive impact, one where we're supporting native species and we are keeping the invasive species in check, which is beneficial to communities and society and the environment. And so it's really important that we have initiatives and opportunities like the one on campus here with VIU Restoration, restoring the Garry Oak habitat there and creating this restoration plot, not just for the biodiversity aspect, but getting people involved as well. So there's that education and knowledge and spreading it as well. And this habitat will support those endangered ecosystems. So it's really important, really powerful, and it's a great example of what we can do to support biodiversity. And something like that could be employed on every yard in the city, right? So. Okay.